Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Destination Mountaintop. This is Teresa Graham, your host, and coming to you today. Like I promised, we were going to start talking about the issue of sex in the church, and I'm going to jump right on in things and not waste time. Try to stay on track here. But what I want to do is start from the beginning and take away the fear of sex and the mystery of sex and the, if I can use the word, the nastiness of sex, where it should be a hidden secret thing and nobody wants to talk about it. As I say in my writings, it's the elephant sitting in the sanctuary, it's the elephant sitting in the room that is smashing the life, the joy and the happiness out of many people. Is something that we don't talk about. And this is why a lot of abuse does go on in the church. This is why a lot of people are taken advantage of. This is why we have a epidemic of children raising children. This is why we have an epidemic of social inadequacies, uh, sexually transmitted diseases, um, dysfunctional people in society, because it all roots back to this little three-letter word, X-E-X, sex. Did I say that right? S-E-X, sex. That nobody wants to talk about, nobody wants to teach on, nobody wants to educate on. We've had sex education in schools, then we had sex education taken out of schools. We have those who say uh, that we should start teaching our kids young. We have those who feel that if you educate your kids, that you're giving them an open leeway to be promiscuous. Um, I can say this is that when I was growing up, the only thing that we were taught was keep your dress down and your drawers up. We were never explained to about sex. Um, Even after I had my son at 15 and was actually going to a continuation high school, which at that time down the street from the regular high school, if you had a child or you were quote unquote one of the bad kids, you went to Mount Olive, which was a continuation high school, which was two bungalows set by the middle school. Now, back then in 1975, that's when my son was born, there were only 8 students in that class. 7 of us had children, and you could bring your children with you, and one girl who was considered as bad, that just could not make it. And I'll never forget her name, Renee Spivey. And Renee Spivey hated me. Oh, she tormented me through school. She tormented me through school until one time I actually just blanked out, and I beat her up. And it happened so quickly, I couldn't believe that I actually beat up the school bully, Renee Spivey. And after that, never had another problem with Miss Renee Spivey. But this was in Duarte, California back in 1975. So there was only 7 of us. And I'll never forget, um, when I got pregnant, I was very active in our church, Second Baptist, Second Lord, Second Avenue Baptist Church in Monrovia, California. And at that time, it was quote unquote the mega church, pretty big ministry, hundreds of people. And I was very active in the youth ministry, and actually got sent on trips to represent the youth and different things. I was in Sunday school, Bible study, BTU, everything. And Even back then, I would get in trouble because during our little meetings, I'd be the one to ask those questions. Well, why does this say that? And why do we have to do this? And why is this not allowed? And why should we feel this way? And I would challenge and ask questions that uh, people weren't prepared to answer. And what I've learned over the years is that you can't answer what you don't know, because much of what is taught in the church is what's always been taught and is not necessarily correct. But if my mama taught it, my daddy taught it, my granddaddy taught it, the great granddaddy taught it, then we're going to stand on this. Not that it's even correct, not that even is the correct interpretation of the scriptures. That's why we must read things for ourselves. But back then, I got pregnant, and of course, I had to go to Pastor Dillard's office and tell him that, I was pregnant. And he told me how disappointed he was in me. And I had to go on a Sunday morning before communion, the first Sunday of the month, with the church full to capacity, upstairs and downstairs. And I had to stand before the church and apologize for my sin, and then be publicly sat down until after the birth of my son. One of the most humiliating experiences that I've ever been through in my life. Now, uh what struck me about this event was two things, and it wounded me for years. Really crippled my relationship with Christ and my opinion of the church and of pastors. Um, what wounded me was that they never asked about the dad. They didn't require that he stand up, and he did used to come visit church with us. Um, Also, you never asked why. You never asked what led up to that. Why was I pregnant at 15 years old? What was going on in my environment that I was pregnant at 15 years old? Was I just some little hot girl that just was fast and wanting to run around and have sex? But he never delved into why. What's going on with your life? What's your home life like? What is your background like? No, it was just, you're just this shameful person, and you disappointed me. You disappointed the youth. You disappointed the church. So you must be publicly humiliated, apologize for this sin, and then you're going to sit down. You're not able to um, participate in the choir. You're not able to participate in Bible studies, ask questions, or anything. You just sit quietly over there to yourself, shamefully, throughout this pregnancy. And then after this pregnancy, then you're able to get up, and we will reinstate you, and you can be active again in the church. Needless to say, I never became active again in the church. As a matter of fact, I kind of started refusing to go to church. And I was one of those who back then we really used to witness for Christ. We would have these Bible studies on how to lead people to Christ, and we would literally go out on Friday evening or Saturdays, and we would literally walk neighborhoods or go in neighborhoods, and we would actually go into people's homes. We would talk to them, and we would actually pray the sinner's prayer with people. I was one of those who did that. And I just, after that experience, I never wanted to be involved in church again. So I begrudgingly went, but I would not be involved with anything. Um, and as I said, one of the things that led to that pregnancy was, number one, all of the sexual abuse growing up, not feeling worth anything. And so I meet this guy in high school, and we were boyfriend and girlfriend, really junior high. We were boyfriend and girlfriend from the seventh grade until we graduated high school. This was like the love of my life. We were tied by the hip. If you saw him, you saw me. If you saw me, you saw him. But during that time, I had a little sister. My mom had a baby when I was 12. Yodi, that's my baby. And I raised Yodi. And when she came home from mom, went to my arms, and I took on the responsibility of Yodi. We moved to Duarte, California. As I said, we were in Duarte. My mom bought a house there. So she was working like double shifts in order to pay for this house to afford us to live in Duarte. But here's the thing, she did not, Yodi was 2, 3 years old. She did not put Yodi in child care. She would basically say, leave, go to work, and say, you're going to have to take Yodi to school with you. Now, you all know you cannot take a 2 year old to a public school with you and say, my little sister has to sit in class with me. Now, mind you, I had an older sister, but she never took the responsibility of the younger ones. It was two more and then Yodi. She never took responsibility for the housework, for cooking dinner, for taking care of the younger ones. It was even to the point that if the younger ones had problems at school, I went to the parent teachers meeting instead of my mom because she was at work. Mom, I'm crying. I cannot take Yodi to school with me. I can't. They won't allow this. So I would have to miss days. If she didn't have friends that could keep her, I would have to miss days and stay home and babysit Yodi. So my boyfriend would ditch school to stay there and keep me company. Now she thought it was all this sexology going on, and it really wasn't. He was just keeping me company. We clean up, cook, do everything we had to do, take care of Yodi. He's ditching school. So then we did finally start having sex. I never forget. Oh my God. And this was before I got pregnant. One day she came in early. We were laying across the bed, me, Yodi, and him, watching a court TV show in about 12:30 in the daytime. I looked up in the hall mirror, saw the door open, and in walks my mom. Oh my God, you guys. Oh my God. She calls her friend that lived 3 minutes away from the house, a half a block up the street. You better come before I kill this girl. She runs him out the house. My mom takes the dust mop, the broom, and the mop. She breaks the handle on all three of them. She tapes them together and she proceeds to beat the hell out of me. My mother beat me so bad, you guys, that I actually fell out, laid on the floor like I had fainted. She said, I'm going to beat the life back in you. By the time my mother finished with me, my face was lopsided. I was bruised all over. I had blood coming out of bruises. I mean, she beat me almost beyond recognition because of this boy being in the house. We weren't doing anything. This was before we even began to have sex. Oh my God. Mm. So the neighbor finally comes and she stops. But for the whole weekend, every time she thought about it, she beat me. She had me cleaning out all the closets. Stand up in this chair, get those tops, wipe them down, and clean them out. Then she kicked the chair from up under me. She beat me some more. She beat me so that my older sister, who never stood up for anybody, said, Ma, don't hit my sister no more. Do not hit my sister again. That's enough. And that's what stopped my mom from beating me that weekend. She beat me so till I got sick, got a fever, and I really couldn't go to school for 2 weeks because I was too covered up with bruises, a black eye, face lopsided, knots in my head, so I couldn't go to school. So when you living under this kind of pressure, you know what I'm saying? You subject to do any kind of thing. I'm laughing about it now. But back then, oh, at 13, 14 years old, that was traumatic. And I'll never forget, I didn't know how to fry chicken, but she insisted I fry this chicken and it better be done by the time she get home. And I got the hell beat out of it because the chicken was bloody on the inside and burnt on the outside. But I bet you what? I bet you I learned how to cook chicken. And I'm famous for my fried chicken wings now. But anyway, getting back to on track, because y'all know I'll get off track. Uh, all of this led up to me finally, me and this young man having sex. And I got pregnant. But I actually um felt like at that time there was no other love in my life, no no light in my life but this guy. Everything, my hopes, my dreams, my everything was in this guy. My grandkids, I never allowed my girls to babysit other people's kids. I don't force my grandkids, didn't force them to babysit other people's kids because when you put a child, I know a lot of people say, well, the kids have to chip in, and that's you, the one that had those babies. You had those babies. I know parents who they have one child or two children who are older and then they get married or start going with somebody else and they have a whole bunch of other little kids, 3, 4, 5 kids. You got a 13, 14-year old and you're working, but now this 13 or 14-year old is responsible for raising and taking care of all of these kids that you laid down and decide to have, where you're putting that child in a grown person's position. You're making that child take on your responsibility. They can't hang out with their friends. They can't go to the library. They can't go to the basketball games. They can't do the things that children are supposed to do to learn how to be social, to learn how to enjoy life, to learn how to be responsible. They can't do those things because they're stuck in the house taking care of the kids that you decided to have. Then you're upset when you find out that that girl is having sex, but you put her in that position. So, saying all that to say, this is something that we don't talk about, but then again, we want to treat people bad because of situations that come up because of that. You don't talk about it, you don't explain it, you don't aren't honest about it. You're making reckless decisions as an adult, but then you want to hold these kids hostage and punish them and put them in situations where they're getting abused because of total dishonesty, secrets, lies, and we're just going to sweep it under the carpet and not talk about it. First of all, let's get this straight. As I said, sex is nothing dirty. When you read Genesis, God created Adam. Now, here's the thing that nobody ever talks about. Adam was created with a penis. Adam was created with balls or testicles. Adam was created with the ability to produce sperm. Okay? God took Eve out of Adam's rib. Eve was automatically created with a vagina, with a womb, with ovaries and eggs. You understand? She was created that way. But not only that, she was created with a clitoris. Adam was created with a gland under his penis that gave him pleasure. So God in all of this creation with the nervous system, central nervous system, with our organs, with our eyes, with our ears, with our sinus passages, with our brains, with our veins and our arteries, with our skin, even created to breathe. Decided that let me do this intricate molding here to give these two beings a way to come together, be one, create covenant, be joined spiritually, procreate, create more, but also to have pleasure. Nobody ever talks about that. Do you think that Adam and Eve were in the garden sexless? They were just walking around the garden sexless. But then after the fall, that's when sex came into play? No. They were already created to join together as one and to be able to have sex, to make more little Adams and Eves, but also for it to be pleasurable. But that not only for Adam, but for Eve also. The sex was not only supposed to be pleasurable for Adam, but he put something down there to give us women a feeling too, so that it would be pleasurable for us too. And then when we join together like this, we join spiritually too. And it makes that bond and that covenant that makes us one. Nobody teaches that. Nobody talks about that. We say sex is dirty. We have in almost every country, every other country and continent in this world, FMG, FGM, female genital mutilation. And it does happen here in the United States. It's just rarely spoken of, but it happens here too, where they go in and they cut a woman's clitoris off. Some tribes or people cut the outer lips off, the inner lips off, and they sew you up, and the clitoris, and they sew you up, and they leave a little hole enough for the pee to come through, which causes enormous health issues for women. And they can never have pleasure in sex. And they do this all in the name of keeping a woman chaste and pure and to keep you straying from your husband. We make sex the dirty thing. We make sex the ugly thing. We make sex the vulgar thing. And then we don't want to talk about it. But I'm not going to make this long. It's 23 minutes and 26 seconds. I'm going to go on to 30 minutes and then I'm going to cut this off and I'm going to come back with part two because we have so much to talk about. But I wanted to get this out the way first, is that the thing that we think is so ugly and so hush hush and so secret was created in the first place to give us pleasure. Now, what the fall did was it made us to where we would have pain in childbirth, along with some other curses that laid out there because of that fall. Because, and here's what people don't talk about. I'm gonna say this quickly. You go back and you read your, go back and read Genesis again. What you'll find out is that Adam was with Eve when she ate the apple. And he could have said to her, don't eat this apple. God told me not to eat it. He didn't tell it to Eve, he told it to Adam. But Adam took the apple from Eve, accepted it, and ate it because he wanted to know what this serpent was talking about too. What eyes are going to be open? What am I going to see? But here's where the blame game starts. Adam blamed Eve, Eve blamed the serpent. And still now in our lives, men blame us, we blame men, we all blame somebody else. So from that day forward, the blame game started. And I'm not going to go into all of that. And, you know, I just wanted to focus in on the uh, physicalness of it all and how the original plan from God when He created us was for us to be joined together, to have one person that we're joined with, to join that person and be in covenant with them, become as one. And He already created us to be able to hold a baby in our womb, to be able to give a woman sperm to produce that baby, and to be able to deliver that baby, but also for sex to be a pleasurable thing between a man and a woman. But our vain imaginations, our sinful natures, our deceitfulness, our greediness, and a lot of what we blame on the devil ain't the devil, it's us. Our narcissism has turned sex into something dirty and ugly. And we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about all of these little idioms and idiosyncrasies and different things that happen. But first things first, sex is not dirty. It's something special. It's a special gift from God. And maybe if we started teaching our kids how special it is, they guard themselves more and guard their bodies more and save themselves more and want to be virgins until they meet the perfect person. Now it's like it's a sin to be a virgin. It's a sin to save yourself, especially in American culture. You're talked about if you save yourself, if you waiting for that special person. But when did we drop the ball on that? When did it become wrong to teach kids about purity? Maybe because we never taught it in the correct way. Maybe because we always made it something dirty and ugly. But as we teach kids about how special sex is, we also have to teach them about predators. Not just the beautiful part of it, but the ugly part of it too. We have to pay attention to what's going on with our kids, what's going on in their lives. And if we can pay attention to that, we can keep them from events unfolding in their lives that then they don't grow up to be like us. Wounded, dysfunctional adults walking around with secrets, walking around with pent up anger, walking around with shame because of things that have transpired in our lives and things that we've done to ourselves as a result of that. But anyway, I'm going to close this one out and I'll be back with another one. As always, faith, belief, for emotion. Remember who you are and remember whose you are. And have a good day, y'all. Bye bye.